Hello everyone. In today's locomotive profile, I'm going to be doing is of an articulated locomotive that was not built by the Union Pacific, and that is Union Pacific Class SA 57. The Union Pacific Class A SA 57s are ex-CNO locomotives, were a large batch of Trinity H7 and H7A class simple articulated 2882 steam locomotives that were bought secondhand from the Chesapeake, Ohio, Ray, during the latter half of the war, World War II, for assisting in wartime traffic. The 20 locomotives were originally built for the CNO Railway as part of the batch of 45 simple expansion 2882s that were built during the 1920s between 1923 to 1926 as delivered. This class of a engine have had duplex stokers, ESCO superheater, Walshart's valve gear, and 57 inch drivers, and several different style of retriangular cast steel water bottom tenders, which had been built in the late 1920s. They also had 6 wheels under the trucks, becoming a mainline choice for heavy coal drags at slow speeds for the CNO during the 1920s and the 1930s. They were too slow for modern fast freight, as by 1930, a group of 210-4 Texas type with larger 69-inch drivers replaced them, majority on the main line during World War II, with enough huge power on the roster, such as the mighty H8 Alleghenies and the K4 class Kanawas. More than half of the H7s and H7A fleets were put up for sale, and some of them were sold to other railroads. During early 1945, the Union Pacific found itself, just like the other major railroads, like the Santa Fe and the Southern Pacific Railroads, in need of more locomotive help assist in the increasing wartime traffic upon tougher routes like the Sherman Hill. UP railroad officials observed the East for fitting locomotive type for heavier jobs like the road's home articulated engines. By May 1945, the CNO put over 30 used, older H7 series simple expansion articulateds for sale, as the UP was interested. The 30 arrived on Union Pacific at the Council Bluffs in summer of 1945. The engines were renumbered as the 3570 to 3599. series and were refitted and relettered before entering service on the UP. However, the C&O units were in poor shape, but the railroad managed to withstand higher for UP's demands. The ex-C&O units were divided into two classes: the H7 class of 1923 to 1924, numbered 3570 to 3588, Alco 19 units, and for the H7A class of 1926, renumbered of 3589 to 3599, Baldwin 11 units. By the UP crew, because of being put into service on its new home during the war. They call these units war babies, where they were mainly assigned to haul heavy freights on Sherman Hill. The UP had used an unusual coal formula developed by its research department to fire them correctly. They did a good job pulling heavy tonnage over the hill, but they were too slow. While in the process, the UP managed with all 30 locomotives rising the boiler pressure from 250 pounds per square inch to 225 pounds, which gave the impressive of 113 to 595 pounds of tractive effort. 11 of the 30 units were heavily rebuilt in the Cheyenne shops from August to December 1945. These touch-ups greatly changed its appearance with extra parts, new wheel shoes, and boiler jackets with better steaming qualities. Although the UP was impressed with the great tender capacity and improved locomotive intake with better water pumps, the speed didn't change. Occasionally, times they double-headed with other of the group. Several of the ex-NAW units. The UP also had double-headed with them, with the UP Big Boys and the Bull Moose SA-59s. Although they couldn't keep up with the newer steam power on the UP, they still managed to help tackle anything over Sherman after the war was over. They were still in use primarily in coal hauling assignments until the first to drop from the roster was the UP number 3597 X CNO 1582 was retired in May of 1946 after 11 months on the UP. But others began retirement in January of 1947 by the time of the traffic had slowed down after 1946. The CNO units became surplus, with many setting in storage at Cheyenne, Wyoming. Despite being very powerful, the group there was already more than what was needed and the former H7s were quickly cut up for scrap. And the last two to retire from the service UP was number 3573 XCNO 1549 and UP 3593 XCNO 1575 in December 1947. By the early months of 1948, all of them were all scrapped and cut up. None of these Union Pacifics or the XCNO ever lived to preservation, which is a pity, because I would like to see one of them preserved. Well, it's a shame though. What if it would have been like if these locomotives would have been modified with the speed, because these locomotives were slow, because they couldn't have improved their speed if they didn't scrap them, or at least leave one preserved, which I highly doubt they would put on excursion service because, well, they're slow. Anyways, like and subscribe, and see you later, guys.